Hello, today is the 18th of September. It's a Tuesday. Let's take a look at silver. We'll look at the hourly time frames, transition to the daily. And I was watching Jay Snip for Realist News yesterday, who had something to say about the WebBot. I'm going to say the exact same thing, show you what I found on the webpage, comment on it. So let's begin. Yesterday I was talking about this hourly time frame, probably somewhere back in here, 3460 area, stating about the bull flag, as Big Ben in his QE3 statement brought the market higher, and then you had the sideways consolidation, thus a bull flag in it. Managed to go a little bit lower, and obviously found amazing support at the 38.2% Fibonacci for a little more than a half of a day, and obviously it has surpassed the previous high and is really back down to support for that previous high on the very short-term time frame. And well, just a little while ago when I was watching this breakout, I really wanted to see how this 34.51 mark was going to hold up, because that was the 61.8% retracement from here to here, and then when it broke it decisively, this is telling me that we should be testing well past the level that we already hit today, or we should be surpassing these highs today. Before we get on, I just want to talk about the things that happen on areas where you're supposed to find support when you don't. Because, hey, did we find support there originally? No, it burst down pretty much down to the 50% retracement. So I go through the different options. Did it have a fast move to this level? Of course not. Did we find resistance at 3407 rather than support and then go lower? Again, that's not what occurred. What occurred really on two different occasions is that it had a pierce below, which is where it has a significant move below a level, and it regains it relatively quick. And it was relatively quick on these two occasions when it came back up to this level, enough where when it pulled back it could successfully find support pretty much exactly at that mark. Okay, move this on to the daily chart. This is at 958. Price is higher than 34.72, but no need to put those fine details in. Obviously, this trend line is still intact. And what I like to do is draw parallel lines, something like this. This is the trend tool or the trend channel that it happens to be in. Therefore, when you have a break down below this trend, that can oftentimes mean that it needs to correct in some form, either through price or through time. When it breaks the resistance level, or if it does it, and situations when it does it, then that creates high volatility. It could also mean a top as well, but it means that the size of the moves for both up and down, generally speaking, can get out of hand for an okay amount of time until they settle down. All right, so that's pretty much it within the daily time frame, but I do like the progression within the sideways movement, and a lot of reason to state that this intermediate run is not over yet. I've talked about the gold to silver ratio showing signs as if it wants to go lower, which usually means gold and silver prices going higher. The dollar index, both short-term and long-term, is showing negative or downward movements. Again, that is bullish for the price of silver, and just the silver chart in itself does as well. 33.5 is a major level, and yeah, you had a little bit of resistance there. And now it's broken above it, so intermediate term, or excuse me, longer term, mid-term maybe, it's holding up very well above this, stating that it might want to continue up for further gains. But if 33.58 on the long term is not much of resistance, watch out, basically. Potentially, that is. And that's what WebBot's saying, too. I'm going to go to their webpage. You will see one swear word in text. I don't think that's going to really bother anybody. And here we go. This is posted 2 days ago, working the data September the 16th, 2012. Note to silver tards. Over these coming weeks, do not be tempted by small gains only to suffer the big loss. Shit! How y'all gonna suss out the Illuminati symbolism if you can't read simple clues? Look at the italics and the bold. Silver, overcoming weeks, gains big. Silver gains big, overcoming weeks. That's basically it. Come on, guys, sharpen up here. That is called reading between the lines. Next report anticipated by mid-October, hopefully just before the powers that be start their next PMF, Planetary Mind, yeah. So with that being said, let's move on over to the monthly time frame. And the Fibonacci analysis is from the 1774 breakout lows on August 24th, 2010, and the end of April highs 2011. Obviously, Fibonacci has played exceptionally well this far, and the more often that you test a significant level, the more likely it is you take it out. So just by the book, if this thing does happen to break the 3750 mark, which is not only the previous resistance from end of February 2012, but it's also the area where you start to say to yourself, hey, wait a second, this 33.5 level, it doesn't look like it's resistance, but at the same time, the more you test a specific area, the more likely it is you take it out. Test, test, and test. So this is test number 3 of the 33.5 level, and it's really not uncommon for there to be fast moves. Now, of course, this report from Webbot does not say to what length that this could go to. It could obviously happen fast, and quite frankly, I think it will, but finding out the when to me is an impossible job. As far as going back to the whole selling part, let's go back again to the little bit of an article. If you were able to, say, sell silver at $38, $39 per ounce, especially if you sell a lot of it, and then it's up to like 44, 45, 52, 67, or whatever, then that's a loss, especially if you hold fiat dollars and the value of such on the short term gets out of control. And at some point, I think that'll happen where holding fiat dollars from point A to point B, and in days, when you take point B, subtract point A, you're only looking at a small number of like 5, 10, or 20. And then the currency loses value that fast. Of course, when into what levels? I'd even think it'd be over gold 3,000, and maybe I'll be right, maybe I'll be wrong. I, again, don't know. But, again, when you're looking back at what happened, say, up here, I'm kicking myself a little bit because of what I didn't do up in this top. And I was calling the 50 level to be extremely significant. Of course, I sold pretty much absolutely nothing at this top. Now, of course, had I sold at the top, I really wouldn't have sold much at all. Just like I didn't sell much when it reached the 31 level, because I knew that was just a short-term resistance. And same thing in here, I wasn't planning on selling too much either. So with the ratio back then of 32:1, I probably would have got a 1/4 ounce of gold. Meaning I would have sold 8 ounces of silver to try to get, 8 ounces of silver to try to get a 1/4 ounce of gold. Didn't do it. That's fine. But the whole point is, there's nothing wrong with selling in an uptrend, even though you know and go higher, but realizing you are selling in very small amounts, because this way, if it does manage to keep on going higher, you really won't be burnt that badly. And then, of course, you can still take small chunks off the side, because I know what a lot of people like to do is they try to pick these tops and bottoms and try to just make a perfect score. For example, if you were to sell everything here and then buy everything back in here, well, you did fantastic. In fact, you played the game based on how the result was played out perfectly. But just because an area is supposed to be resistance doesn't mean it always will. And when it doesn't, you can make a very high probability odd that it's just going to skyrocket above it. So let's just look back at the past and say, what if it played out differently? If you sold everything here and then there was really no resistance and it goes up to say 120, and then the pullback only brought you down to 90, well, then that would have been a terrible sale and you would have lost. So that's pretty much how the game works within it. And of course, myself, I'm planning on holding this and then really selling it when it's not uncommon for people to realize that silver is that of money. And speaking of money, I'm going to talk about that in the next video. I don't believe in money, actually, and I'm going to explain why in the next video. Take care.